Hi there. So you must have heard about the Sony a7S III that was announced yesterday, July 28, 2020. Several professional YouTubers has access to this camera for several weeks. People like Tony, Jared, Potato Jet, Justin, Max, and many others. I was watching their video clips, hours and hours of the footage, and I was pretty impressed with the Sony a7S III, and also very disappointed. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I may be purchasing this camera, 5 reasons I probably won't, and 4 reasons where I'm kind of sitting in between. For me, money doesn't come easy. If I'm going to purchase something, I would have to sell something. It's a sacrifice I have to make, and I think for everyone, or most of us anyway, it's very similar. I don't just use the credit card and charge it because there's consequences. So I know how hard it is to earn money, but I'm going to make a challenge to anyone, the individual who own or rent a Sony a7S III that's able to pass my test. I'm going to give away the first person to make a video on a7S III to test it. I'm going to give away this $100 bill. It'll say, "In God We Trust." You see at the back? It's original. Ben Franklin. $100 US bill. My challenge is, and I'll talk about this more in the end of this video, is to test the dynamic range of this camera, because that's the only thing that I notice a lot of these professional YouTubers are not discussing about. So let's talk about the 10 reasons why I like this camera, 5 I don't, and 4 somewhere in between. Let's get started. Alright, so let's talk about Sony a7S III. What are the 10 reasons why I may be purchasing this camera, 5 reasons why I'm not, and 4 reasons kind of in between. So let's talk about the 10 reasons. Now, the 10 reasons is not in any particular orders, but I'm going to tell you each one and explain why I think this camera is amazing. So Sony a7S III has a faster processor, and because of that, it has a minimal rolling shutter. So that is one of the reasons. So let's call that reason number 1. The rolling shutter is minimized. Okay, several of these YouTubers has tested out, and compared to the a7S II, is definitely much better. It's still there. However, if you don't pan very quickly, then that jello effect is not going to be obvious. Number 2, the 4K 120 frames per second and the 1080p 240 frames per second is pretty impressive. Now, I like slow motion cinematic videos. I really enjoy. Now, I'm not going to use it in every scenario. In fact, you want to minimize that as much as you can because everybody's using it without knowing why they're doing it. But having that feature in this camera on a full frame is pretty amazing. So yeah, so that's number 2. Number 3 is a 10-bit 422 on a full frame. Now, I know Panasonic GH4, GH5 already have that 3-4 years ago, and the Fujifilm X-T3 and X-T4 also have that already. But the difference is that this Sony a7S III is actually a full frame camera. So that's a very unique feature, that a full frame has a 10-bit 422. Now, Nikon Z6, I believe, and Z7 also have 10-bit 422, and then the Canon R5, R6 also is able to do that as well. So it's not one of those amazing features, but it has to be there. So that's number 3. Number 4 is the color science is better now. Now, I'll talk more about this later on, about the 5 disappointing things that I don't like about this camera, but the color science is better. It has film simulation that is pretty good, but it's not the S-Cinetone that people want this camera for, or Venus color science. It's not like that at all. But, well, I guess, you know, this is a camera, not a cinema camera. I'll talk more about that, why I'm not impressed as much as I thought. Number 5, the autofocus is quite amazing. It's very fast, very accurate, similar to the A7R4. And the great feature about this camera is that in the low light setting, it's also a pretty good at autofocusing. So that to me was one of the best feature that it has, and it could be an amazing tool for that if you're doing night scene and you want it to follow someone in the dark. So I think that's one of the best features in this camera. Number 6, now this one not many people talk about, is the digital high quality audio. So you have to buy this extra audio system you put on top of the hot shoe, and you are able to get a XLR input, and I think it has 4 channels, something like that. But it's a digital audio input, which is going to give you a pretty good high dynamic recording, audio wise anyway. So I'm pretty impressed with that. Not many people talk about that. I just wish that more people do a test on that. I know the audio guy. I can't remember his name, but hopefully he will be testing that on YouTube. That'd be pretty impressive if they can do that. Of course, number 7 is that this camera is designated for its low light feature. It is known for its low light capability. So I would say this is a king of low light. It is very similar to the A7S II, but definitely better. Now, I was disappointed that it didn't have any dual ISO. However, according to Jared Undone, he did a ISO test, and it seems like Sony didn't announce that it's a dual ISO, but it's hidden in there, because when Jared was doing the test at I think 640 ISO is pretty good, low noise, and then at 16,000 it restart again as being low noise or minimal noise. So you have these 2 native ISO, but it's not in their manual, or it's not even in their discussion. Surprised about that. That would be interesting if somebody can elaborate on that. Number 8, 15 stops of dynamic range. Now that's pretty impressive. That's on paper. So I think some of the YouTubers that had access to this camera need to elaborate on that more, and that's why I'm saying at the end of this video I'm going to explain more what this $100 bill. I'm going to challenge any of you guys, the first to do it, regarding the dynamic range of this camera. If you've done a pretty good job, I will send you or e-transfer $100 US to anyone who can fulfill my challenge. Now remember, this is my hard-earned money, blood money, so just keep that in mind. I'm not a rich guy, and I'm very frugal, so giving away $100 US is a lot of money for me. Okay, just think through that. Number 9, overheating issue is non-issue now. Apparently most of the tester of this A7S III didn't come across any overheating issue, except for 2. I think Dan Watson and Potato Jet did come across that, but the condition was very extreme. For example, Dan Watson did a test outdoor in I think Florida, almost, if not over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it overheated after 23 minutes. Potato Jet put in this like oven thing, and it's like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and again after I think 20-30 minutes it overheats. So in that extreme condition, you can see it does overheat. So and then that's only the regular 4K 24 frames per second. So this camera does overheat, so it just depends on how you set up your condition. So in a normal room temperature condition, hook up to an external monitor or battery, there's no issue whatsoever. Now if you start filming outdoor in the sun at over 100 degree Fahrenheit, well, yeah, after 20-30 minutes you're gonna run into problems. All right. Number 10, oh yeah, the flip up screen, right? The flip out screen, just like the Panasonic GH4 or GH5. Again, a lot of you who are vlogger may be impressed in that, but think about the price on this camera. Really, you're gonna pay about $3,000 to $4,000 US dollars just to get this camera for vlogging. You must have a lot of money, I guess. Anyway, so those are the 10 reasons why I would say it's worthwhile to buy this camera. Now I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I'm not impressed. Actually, let's talk about the 4 reasons I'm kind of sitting in between purchasing it. Okay, let's go through that first, and I'll talk about the 5 reasons why I'm not going to purchase this camera. Number 1, which, right, is the IBIS. Okay, so the IBIS is not that impressive. There's they have something now called active in-body stabilization. I don't know whether that's a software or a hardware, but apparently I think it's a software, and I saw the footage. Not that impressive. If you're walking and you hit a rock or something, like you stumble on a rock, you definitely see the shake. So the jittering is there if you're not careful. So I would say you still need a gimbal for this camera. But if you're doing handheld and you're stationary like this, I think it's okay. I think it's pretty good. But again, those people who are doing handheld are usually a photographer, and a 12 megapixel is not that impressive, right? So I mean, most photographer, professional anyway, need at least, I think, 20 megapixel. 16 megapixel is okay, but 12 is definitely only good for social media. Well, if you think about it, iPhone is already 12 megapixel, and Samsung as well is 12 megapixel. That's a standard in any iPhone camera or smartphone camera like Samsung and Sony. So yeah, 12 megapixel is not very impressive. Number 2, the body. Sony kept the same body as the a7R4, and that is a photography body. It's not a cinema camera body. If it was like similar to, let's say, the Canon C300 but maybe smaller, and then all these other features that can put in like ND filters and all that stuff, then I would be very impressed with that body. I would I definitely, even though it's larger, but I would say, yeah, this is a decent built camera with all other extra features on it. But on a Sony a7 series camera, look very similar to the a7R4, I can't comment that it's good or bad. Okay, so number 3, the new touchscreen menu. I looked at it. It's good that you can touch it, but it looks kind of kiddie. It's not very nice looking professional menu. It looks so mundane, I guess is the word, right? I don't know how to describe that, but it just looks so I'll just leave it at that. It's okay. Okay, number 4, the touch screen. Okay, so the touch screen, you can pretty much touch the screen any way you want now, instead of just touch to focus. But the touch screen is a bit quirky. I think some of the YouTubers that had the camera and they were testing it, it's not that great. So again, these are the 4 reasons where I'm kind of, yeah, it's there, but it's not the best features. So it just, Sony did haphazard work on this 4 things, and it's not that great. Okay, so let's talk about the 5 reasons which I'm not impressed with this camera. Number 1 reason is that it's not a true 4K camera when recording internally. It's UHD, not DCI. Now, for some of you, this is important, because especially when you're trying to standardize your 4K. So I'm surprised a lot of these YouTubers, professional YouTubers who claim to know about videography, they even kind of like talk about this. My Fujifilm X-T3 can do 4K DCI internally. My Panasonic GH4, this camera is like 4 or 5 years old now, I think, and it still can do DCI 4K. Think about that for a minute. That's pretty impressive. So it seems like Sony is actually behind in that way, and it's supposed to be advanced, and pretty much you're paying the premium price for this camera. It's just pretty sad that they don't even have DCI internally. Now you could probably have the external like Ninja V, then you can probably get that DCI 4K, but I mean, I don't want to pay an extra $600 US for a monitor, which I just want 4K DCI. That's not very impressive. Number 2, like I mentioned about their color science has improved, but it's not the cine tone that I was expecting, which is very disappointing. It's not even the, I thought Cinetone was okay, S-Cinetone in the FS9. I thought, okay, at least they're going to put that. But nope, they didn't do that. And, I thought maybe they tried to put Venus type of color science in their like high-end cinema camera. Nope. Yeah, so disappointing about that. But I guess, their color science a little bit improved. I hope that somebody actually elaborate on their, that color science that they're talking about, that improvement. See how, I want to see more video on that. Anyway, very disappointing about that one. Number 3, this is big too. This is the, they put in the full HDMI. I mean, I was thinking, they could have put SDI in there, output, SDI. The reason why I want SDI is because it's very secure. You see, like SDI is the industry standard for hooking up high output, raw and all that stuff. Like my Sony FS700R has the SDI, and this is like 10 years old, and I can get like for a third of the price of what the camera A7S III is now. So very disappointing, because with the SDI, you see I have Atomos Shogun Inferno, and through SDI I'm able to record RAW at 4K 120 frames per second. Right now there's no Atomos that can hook up directly to the A7S III that can do RAW 120 frames per second, but on my Sony FS700R with the Atomos Shogun Inferno, I can do that. So the technology is available for for 5-6 years now. It's not like a new thing. So Sony, I wish you did that. SDI, I don't know why. Is it because it's technically impossible? So that's what it is. I am very disappointed about that one, because then I could have used my Atomos Shogun Inferno to hook up to the A7S III and get my raw 4K 120 frames per second, which is not there. Number 4, the small mediocre LCD screen. They have a very good EVF, like the best in the world, but why? This is a cinema or a video camera, and you have a small, standard, not so high res LCD screen. Why not make that screen bigger and make it more high res? I think that would have been better than just give you the EVF high res. I don't know. I think they're gonna. This is why I said the A7 IV or the A7R5 will have this new EVF. So if you're into EVF and for photography, you might want to wait for the new camera that's coming out from Sony, and they'll probably incorporate that in the A7R4 or the A9 III or the A7 IV. I don't know when that can be released, but we know that usually when they use something, they can transfer that new technology to the newer model. And lastly, number 5, which is the most important of all, I was so disappointed when they announced it was $3,500 US. That is expensive. I was expecting $3,000, not $3,500. The reason I'm saying that is because there is improvement, but it's not, I would say, beyond my expectation. I think, if they would have, put in their 24 megapixel raw input, recording raw internally, even for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, right? SDI, like I mentioned, all these other features that I was disappointed that they should, Sony should have. I would be willing to pay the $3,500 US, but there were so many features that wasn't there, like the color science. That why don't they put the S-Cinetone like the FS9, right? Those kind of thing. Then it'll be worth $3,500. And the IBIS is not that great either. If it was like the GH5 type of, or the Olympus type of IBIS, then yeah, maybe I'll pay $3,300, but $3,500 US. Now let me illustrate to you what $3,500 is like. See, for me to come up with $3,500 US, which in Canada, what we have to do, like for me anyway, that would be equivalent to about, if you put tax into that, because we have to pay 13% tax in Ontario, Canada, that will bring up to around $5,340 Canadian dollars. That's like a used car, a very good used car. or if I want to get it, I would have to sell several of my camera equipments. Let me illustrate to you what $5,340 is equal to. Okay, so for 5,400 Canadian dollars, I was able to purchase Ultimate Shogun Inferno. Okay, that's one equipment. The Sony FS700R, doing 4K, 120 frames per second, RAW and all that. You can check the feature online. Okay, so this true 4K camera if you hook up to the Ultimate Shogun Inferno. Okay, so there, it's not 5,300 yet. Remember I buy all my equipment used. So far 2 equipment. What else can I purchase? Okay, let me show you more. Sony a6i. So with that 5,300, I can also get the Sony a6i. What else? Panasonic GH4 with the kit lens. Okay, and that's not it. And the Fuji Film X-T3 with the kit lens, a very good kit lens by the way. All these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 professional equipment, the same price as the a7S III. Okay, Sony, if you're thinking about us, I hope you realize how expensive it is. With that $5,340, including tax in Canada, that would mean I would have to sell all these 5 equipments in order to purchase the Sony a7S III. Guess what? No way, Jose. I am not doing that. In fact, these 4 equipments or 5 equipments that I have, if you combine them together, it's better than the Sony a7S III. The only features that is very impressive, which is found in the Sony a7S III, is the low light capability, and it's doing at 10-bit 422. That's the only reason why I'm very interested in the a7S III. But other than that, I'm definitely not giving up my equipment to purchase the a7S III. In fact, I'll probably wait another 2 years to purchase this camera when they come out with the a7 IV or the a7R5 or the a9 III. And a7S III has dropped down to at least $3,000 US, and if I buy used, maybe around $2,500 US. Then yes, because at that type of price, like $3,500, I might as well save up to buy the FS9, their cinema camera. So that would probably be a better purchase for me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this long video. Now, okay, before I go, I want to talk about that $100 bill that I will be giving away to an individual who own or rent a Sony a7S III and do the following test. Okay, so here's the test. What I want you to do is to film in an ISO 16,000 or 32,000 on the Sony a7S III at night, have a very high contrasty type of lighting, and then color grade that scene. Okay, that's all I wanted. Like for maybe in a campfire or a light post, right? And then bring the ISO up to 16,000. Now make sure the it's at f2.8. The lens, I don't care what lens you use, but it doesn't have to be too wide or too zoom in, but f2.8, ISO 16,000, 32,000, and have this night scene that is very contrasty. The reason I want to do that, I want you guys to do that, is that when you color grade it, I want to see whether you can see that that color banding in an 8-bit. So I want to see how good is a 10-bit 422 when you do color grade and night scene. That's number one. And of course, the other scene would be like during daytime. You have a very bright light, like the sun, and you're inside the home or something like that. Out you can see the window, the light shining in, and I want you to film that at the lowest ISO, but then I want you to color grade it and see if that high contrast you can smooth that out. Okay, so you don't see any banding or the color banding when you try to color grade it. This is a way to test a proper dynamic range of that camera. So I hope that somebody will step up the challenge. So Tony, Jared, Potato Jet, Dan, whoever you are, or Philip, $100 is coming your way if you're the first to do it. Test out the dynamic range. So for the night scene and the bright scene, high contrast, color graded, see how good it is, then I will give you that $100 for the first to do it. Alright? This is a blood money, hard-earned money from a poor guy to those rich dude and gal. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's long, yes, but you know, it's exciting time. The camera is coming out with amazing feature. Pretty much, you know, every camera that come out is pretty impressive, I would say. Doesn't matter with a7S III or the R5 from the Canon, or the Nikon Z6 or Z7, or the Fujifilm X-T4. I think all of them, and the Panasonic too, the S1H, all amazing camera. And I mentioned about the cinema cameras from Sony, Red, Alexa, and all those ones. That's too expensive. But I'm talking about, you know, the sub 5,000 or less camera. Nowadays, it's just so impressive. Thanks for watching EducateTube.com.